Hi, everybody. It's Laura Stack here in Portola Valley, California with Kitchen TV, where we like to stir things up. Welcome to my kitchen. We're glad that you could make it today. We're going to do a class that was perfectly entitled Grab an Apron and Start Cooking. Now, I don't see anybody. So are people cooking is the first thing. Is anyone cooking along? And if you are, it gives us an opportunity to say, put that in the chat box because that will kind of change how we're going to move through the class. I want people to know that the chat box is there for you now to let us know if you're cooking. And it's also there for you to add any questions. I'm going to try. Okay, well, good. So we'll see. We'll go along with Joseph, and hopefully you're the inspiration, Joseph, for everybody else. Questions are also good in the chat box. I may not be able to answer those questions immediately because of something that's going on the cutting board, but Ray will feed those questions when it's important or impossible. Ray is my wingman in the background. He is our IT guy today, and we're very happy to have Infinera here joining us. So also the chat is visual to everyone. So if you want to write something in the chat, make sure that you know that everyone's going to see it. Okay. If you want to cook along, that's fantastic. There will be a video for you afterwards if you do not cook along. If we do any more classes in the future, I know sometimes cooking along during the workday is tough. So what I would encourage you to do is maybe focus on one recipe rather than all of them, or take a recipe to a point where you can kind of wait to then finish it up for dinner. That's always an option too. I may mention other classes during class. That's because there are many things that are interesting and definitely important to learn in culinary. Thank you for coming to this cooking class, probably the first cooking class for a few of you, I assume, out there. Maybe that's a good thing to put in the chat. If anyone has taken a cooking class before, why don't you put that in the chat so we can know? Most people actually don't take cooking classes, which is the strangest thing, because you figure we eat 3 times a day, and how can none of us have much training on it? So welcome if this is your first class or your 100th class. Cooking is all about tips, and the more you know, the faster and more delicious and more creative your food and cooking can be. Good things to put in the chat or good questions to ask are, I have allergies, I don't like something, can you suggest a substitute? And we are always interested in feedback. So you've got my connection, email, and website, both on the packet if you downloaded it. And if you didn't download the packet, I have, I think, 2 of the recipes that we just put up on my website, and the link is in the chat. Okay, so we're going to do basically 4 recipes today. We're going to do a 1-pot spring salmon or tempeh dish with a whole grain couscous. We're going to do something called easy seasoned vegetables, which is we talk about salt and pepper with a college education. And we learn seasoning lesson 1 and 2. So this is an opportunity to, no matter what you have in your kitchen, to be able to eat more vegetables and learn how to season them quickly. And then I just threw in an extra thing that I've been doing a lot lately, which is making a creamy chia pudding because I've been looking very intently for more dessert recipes that don't have sugar. Really looking at my sugar issues. I'm a sugar addict. I was for many years. Feel like I've gotten a good handle on it. We do teach a sugar class. And anyway, so I just think that maybe this recipe will help you out too. So that's just a quick one at the end. All right, so we're going to start off with the salmon, also tempeh, and I'm going to take the stove shot, please, Ray. So on this cast iron skillet, which of course is a non-stick skillet, so it's good for searing things such as the tempeh that you see here. Tempeh is a protein that is made from soybeans, and it is whole beans, unlike tofu. So trying to see that camera there. You can season it with anything. You can make it really taste like anything. And so all I did was marinate it in some soy sauce and white wine and chicken stock or vegetable stock and let that sit overnight. And then I just seared it quickly on my little olive oil and seared the tempeh. And now what I want to do is take the skin off of the salmon. And I can use the same pan to do that. You don't have to take the skin off if you like it, but this is a good way, this is a good way to show how to take off skin, should you want to take the skin off. And so a dry skillet, a cast iron skillet, because it is a non-stick skillet, is a good option for that. And just let the fish cook for a few minutes. And then, not a few minutes, maybe about 30 seconds to a minute. Depends. The pan here was cold, so it's going to take a little bit longer. And then that skin can come right off. So while that pan is heating up, we're going to go back to the general shot ray. And I'm going to introduce the grain that's going to go along with the fish. Actually, I think I'm going to take the fish off. So we'll take the overhead shot. Okay, overhead shot. Okay, so you'll see that the fish, of course, doesn't cook through, but all you need to do, and I'm assuming we have the overhead shot because I can't see it myself, is just take anything, a knife or some kind of spatula, and you can peel that skin straight off. And again, it's not necessary. Some people love the skin, but others, you decide what you want. For people that aren't that associated with fish, it's often good to take off the skin. Let's put it that way. All right. So we're going to add some, we're going to make a melange of couscous, which is a pasta, right, with the overhead shot. I'm definitely interested in reducing my carbs like everyone, but I am a pasta fan. So I find that couscous is a good opportunity, which of course is a wheat flour that has been turned into pearls. But so this actually allows me to get a pasta kick without having any, without a whole plate of pasta. It actually kind of saves some carbs. But what I like to do with this is to put additional whole grains into a regular couscous, and that's the recipe that you have in front of you. So there are whole grains that are very easy to incorporate into something such as couscous, which cooks at about 10 to 12 minutes. And those grains you see in the spotlighted camera now. We have grains such as buckwheat, which is more of a grass or a seed than a grain, but it's the thing that you make buckwheat pancakes out of. But it's a powerhouse grain, full of protein and a very unique flavor. Most of us have never had it whole. Something more common would be a quinoa. Definitely cooks in about 10 to 12 minutes. One of the highest protein grains you can get. And whole grains are extremely important in a world where we're basically more than half of our calories come from highly refined carbohydrates. And we eat a lot of white flour and white sugar. And what we need to do is to move beyond this, half of the calories coming from refined products is to look more toward the whole grain. And then in combination, we're also going to put in some red lentils. Red lentils cooking in about 10 to 12 minutes. So these are perfect additions just to add to my couscous. And basically from regular old couscous, which I'll just add in, right? Just add in, you can add up half of the amount of couscous a recipe might have, and just add your whole grains and beans into it. And mix that up. Put it off to the side. Okay, so our recipe is going to start with some spring vegetables. Now, it's a little too quick to get all the spring vegetables. I got some spring onions. Spring onions are regular onions, but they're baby. But I couldn't find any spring garlic yesterday when I was at the produce market. Spring garlic is garlic, but it looks almost exactly like this, but not as big of a bulb. Why would you might be interested in finding these at your farmer's market right now? Well, because they give you a different type of flavor. It is a more not so piquant, not so strong flavor of onions or garlic. And so if you enjoy that flavor, but you don't necessarily want to, you're not, it's a little too strong for you, definitely this is the season for spring onions, spring garlic. Now, what you want to use in these spring onions and spring garlic is about starting where the green starts. So this is good for soup stock. It's not necessarily, depending on how young it is, it's not necessarily great to, cut up and add to a dish. So those we can add to our stock. And here we have our spring onions. And usually the spring onions are a little bit larger. The recipe says 1 spring onion. And that's approximately about the size of what I would say. I've got these 2 spring onions here. And I'm just going to take these off, take the skin off. You don't have to take the skin off, but the skin looks a little flaky. The older the onion gets, and these are obviously very brand new, the skin is actually fine to eat on the outside. All right, so I'm just going to slice these guys up. And again, if you didn't have a regular onion, or if you can't find spring garlic and spring onions, you can use regular garlic and regular onions. Chop these guys up. Again, using just a little bit of the stem and putting the rest into a soup stock. And we can just slice these guys up. All right. So we're going to take a non-stick pan. I'll take the stove shop, please, Ray. A non-stick pan, so something that doesn't have a coating, because I want some stuff to stick. We're going to learn about caramelization today, how to bring out the secrets in vegetables. And for that, you need a pan that does not non-stick, because that stuff that sticks to the bottom of the pan is part of the dish. It is what we're looking for, and there's a term for that. Brown stuff that sticks to the bottom of the pan. Who knows what it's called? I'm going to add in my spring onions. And then I'm going to toss in just some regular garlic. Again, I didn't find the spring garlic, but I'm going to wait a little bit till the onions create a juice. Because the idea, anytime we're using onions are one of those additions in culinary that are filled with, believe it or not only flavor, but actually protein that breaks down to amino acids. And amino acids is where we get a lot of flavor in our dish, including something very important when we're looking to reduce our animal products, which is called umami. Umami is that savory taste that we get from cooking meats and animal products, but we can also get it from cooking plants and things in the plant world, such as tomatoes, eggplant, mushrooms, Parmesan cheese, fermented foods such as soy sauce and miso. And these foods are very important. Umami is very important to seasoning because it gives us something that sweet, sour, salty, and bitter do not. Ray, can I have the overhead shot? So if you look at this tongue version of how different flavors touch your tongue and then register in your brain, you'll notice that sweet hits the top of the tongue and sour on the side, salty, very small on the side, bitter in the back, but umami, this savory taste, hits the whole tongue. And so umami is a very key taste that we don't hear a lot about in the US. And most of us think about it from animal products, but we can get it from plants. And that includes what releases from a good sauteed onion. Okay, back to the stove shop, please. So when you're sauteing onions, the goal isn't to do it too fast or too hot, because to really get the flavor that you're looking for from onions takes a longer period of time. If you have the time, which we don't today, sauteing onions for 15 minutes on a low heat will bring out so much more flavor than a quick saute. And if you really have time, a half an hour is even better. But no matter what, a good dish, with onions is a dish hopefully we all like, and that's because onions lend us so much flavor. And as we're sauteing, we're seeing a brown or caramelization occur on the onions, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get into the vegetables. I like to give the onions a chance to create a little bit of their juice before I add the garlic. Why? Because garlic has less moisture than onions. So if you add garlic and onions at the exact same time, you will often burn your garlic before your onions get a chance. All right, so our flame is low. And now I'm going to add in a little bit of fennel, also a nice spring vegetable that's coming in. Other spring vegetables you could add in, certainly peas, fava beans, more towards the end, English peas, sugar snap peas. And with the fennel, after it's washed, definitely inspect the outside of it, see if there's brown on the outside. If there is, you might want to avoid or take that part, that leaf, that layer of the fennel off. Fennel's a great spring vegetable because it's got such a light flavor that it's a flavor that also we don't really find out a lot about or use a lot in Western cooking. But adding fennel to basically a mirepoix, we could say, of onions, garlic, and maybe carrot or celery if we added it here, turns it into a dish more from Italy. If you add fennel to a dish as to make a base, a base that it will carry your dish, what we will call a mirepoix in French cooking. If you add fennel to it or parsley, it becomes what the Italians call a sofrito. Sofrito. So I'm not adding all of the fennel in there because I want to make sure I just have enough for my pan, but not too much. So as this is cooking, I'll take the stove shot if we don't have it, Ray. You'll notice we have some brown stuff that reaches to the bottom of the pan. That we were talking about that. The term on that is fond, F-O-N-D. And what we want to do is to allow that fond to occur because it is the dehydrated essence. It is the culinary gold. And it is not something we want to just throw down the drain as we wash the pan. We want to pick that fond up and put it back in the dish in the process called deglazing. So we can deglaze with wine or stock or any liquid. We'll go more into that later. Here I've got a little wine. But all I want to do is to remove it is add a little bit to where the fond is. Now you see the fond, but I have to do it off to the side. Because if I did it too closely to the camera, it might shut the camera off. And I don't want to add a lot. Basically, I want to add enough to pick that fond up. And I actually add a little bit too much. All I need is to pick it up. You'll notice the fond is gone. Now that will reduce down. And that will give us a chance to season our vegetables before we've even seasoned them. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, we've got about 1.5 cups of chicken stock. And to that, I'm going to add in about 2 tablespoons of capers. Now, I'm assuming we're on the stove shot. So capers, of course, are a pickled berry. Definitely an option. If you want to experiment with something different than capers, or if you like capers, but you want to try new things, which of course is always good, look for a pickled peppercorn. Pickled peppercorn, if you can say it 5 times fast, is a wonderful addition and kind of a new flavor, definitely peppery, but it is a pickled peppercorn, which brings it into a whole new level. So we're just going to prep that off to the side as I let that additional moisture move away from our dish. And now I'm going to take my combination of the couscous, the whole grains, buckwheat, quinoa, red lentils, and I'm going to move a little space on the side so that I can get some toasting of my grains. Just let them. So this is grain and bean are made of the same thing that vegetables are, carbohydrates. So carbohydrates caramelize, toast, at a certain temperature, and that temperature is 330 degrees Fahrenheit. All carbohydrates will brown, will caramelize at 330 degrees Fahrenheit. So what temperature does water boil at? 212 degrees. So when we are looking to caramelize, we want a dry pan, not one that has water in it, because the water will reduce our temperature down. And here I'm doing the same thing to my grains as I was doing to my vegetables. I'm caramelizing them, right? I'm toasting basically the grain to bring out more flavor, and flavor is the ticket. So by exposing your grains and your beans to a little bit of dry heat, you can toast them. And why do you toast grains? Well, why do you toast toast? Just an extra step for flavor, and flavor is what we're looking for when it comes to our food, right? Especially if we're looking to reduce the amount of animal products in our diet, because animal products are made of nitrogen. Meat's made of nitrogen. Nitrogen on our tongue is more complex. It comes with its own sauce. Carbohydrates need to be heightened, need to be caramelized in order to have that complexity of flavor that we get from things such as nitrogen. So this process of caramelization is a good one to know, and a way to bring out more flavor in the kitchen. All right, so what I'm going to do is add in that stock that has the capers in it. I'm going to nestle in. I'm going to add a little salt to the dish. I might mix that up a touch. I can turn up my heat too, because I want to bring this all to a boil. Turn it up a little bit. I'm going to nestle in my salmon. And I'm also going to nestle in my tempeh. Now my tempeh is already cooked. Maybe I'll just cut it in half and put my tempeh in there too. And then I'm going to top it with a little bit of either homemade pesto, or what's nice about this dish is you don't necessarily have to make everything. Put a little pesto on top of that just for a flavor. This is a cilantro pesto. And then I'm going to take a well-fitting lid and cover that whole thing up. Oh, maybe put a little lemon in there too. And cover that up. If you have a pan that doesn't have a lid that fits as well as, say, this pan lid does, you can always add a layer of aluminum foil to your pan, and then that will give you enough to be able to bring the temperature up to a boil. And then once it starts boiling, we're going to turn it down and cook for about 12 minutes. All right. This is a good time for any questions. If anyone is, are there any questions out there about how we just put together our one-pot salmon and tempeh dish? Okay, how's Joseph doing? Is it Joseph? How you doing, Joseph? Are you moving? Are you thinking you're the only one cooking? Let us know how you're doing. Turn on your camera. It takes guts to cook into one. Oh, still here. All right, very good. Nobody else is cooking. We're disappointed, but we're going to keep moving on. So, there we go. Joseph's turned his camera on, and maybe we're going to give him a chance to kind of catch up, or maybe he's already there. We're going to move on to easy seasoning. So easy seasoning, Ray, I'll take the overhead shot. Easy seasoning is salt and pepper with a college education. If you look on your recipe packet, you can see this handout. There we go. We can see the handout, easy seasoning. And it has different sweet, sour, savory, fresh. And these are things that you can put together as easy as salt and pepper that can give you an additional, 25 different ways to season food. It doesn't matter the vegetable. It doesn't matter the seasoning. You'll notice that here there are no amounts. And that's because this is meant to really be a visual for you to think about, nobody gives you the amounts of salt and pepper, right? You figure out how to do it yourself. So it's the same thing here. If you like a combination, and today we're going to do two, we're going to do Parmesan and pine nut, and we're going to do cumin seed, mustard seed, and lime. If you like the combination, you decide how much of what and which, right? Nobody tells you salt and pepper, the amounts. So here's that same kind of idea. And the two that we're going to use, I'll take the overhead shot. We're going to do Parmesan and pine nuts. So freshly grated Parmesan, which actually is an umami bomb in its own right. And then, and we're going to add toasted pine nuts to that. And then I'm also going to do a combination called cumin seed, mustard seed, and lime, fresh seeds that toast quickly and really add a nice addition. So let's begin. Any of the seasonings, of course, as I said, can go with any vegetable. And today, so today we have two. We have some carrots and we have some broccoli, but anything that you have can work. And you decide what kind of combinations you like. I'm just looking at my salmon. Okay, my salmon is up. Ray, if you want to give me a quick shot of the stove, I'm going to turn that heat down. You'll see that it is boiling nicely. So I hope you got that shot because I didn't want to let it all out. And I'm going to set my timer for about 12 minutes. Okay, so back to the overhead shot now. I've got a carrot. And we're going to get a carrot. We're going to get the carrot ready for saute. So anything that rolls like this is destined to, ouch, right? Things that roll are dangerous in the kitchen. So in order to prevent things that roll, like carrots and zucchini, for instance, you want to cut yourself a base. And now it's sturdy. And that's especially important if I'm going to do something like cutting it into planks and then stacking those planks on top of each other. And then, of course, that has a base in its own right. And then cutting that into julienne or sticks. And then if you wanted to do a dice, the way you would do that is you would just cut bigger julienne, and then you would line those all up and cut yourself a dice. All right. So again, we can do that. You want to take the carrot, cut yourself a base so that it is not moving. Cut the main carrot into whatever size you want. And if it happens to be, if you're trying to get into julienne and dice, and then you line those guys up on top of each other, and you can cut those guys. And that's how chefs create these perfectly, right? If you've ever taken a cooking class and you've had to do these perfectly shaped things, that's how that all happens. So I've got the carrots, and then for the broccoli, just going to do something simple. Just cut it straight through. We know that we can eat the stem, of course. If it's a thick stem, you want to peel off the skin. If it's not a thick stem, you just take it from the bottom like a celery and peel off the skin. If it's thick, if it's not, you can eat it. And then we'll have those guys cut like this. Now, what's important about vegetables is I've noticed that actually mini cut, I call this mini cut, is a good benefit for a number of things. It's good for us because when I have vegetables cut smaller, I actually expose more of the vegetable to the heat. And that means I get more caramelization. And that's really not all the time, but often what I'm looking for, because eaters are motivated by sweet. And if I can bring sweetness into my vegetables, who doesn't want that, right? So people that don't like vegetables out there, this is your technique. This is what you need to do to start eating more vegetables, or your children, is bring out the sweetness. And vegetables have secrets. And the secret is that they're sweet. But it takes that temperature, 330 degrees Fahrenheit or higher, right? Where do I get 330 degrees Fahrenheit? In the kitchen. Oven, broiler, grill, saute pan. All right, so let's go back to the saute pan. I'm going to turn my heat on. I've got, again, a non-stick skillet. I can take an extra virgin olive oil. It doesn't necessarily have, it can be filtered, which will allow me a smoke point of 375 to 425 that will allow me to actually saute. A lot of people think, oh, we're not supposed to saute with olive oil, and that's true if it is unfiltered. But a filtered olive oil you can saute with. And to that, I might a little bit too much. I think a little too much oil there. I'm just going to take a little bit out. I'm going to add my vegetable. Now, vegetables, again, have secrets, and the secret is that they're sweet. And the sweetness comes out at 330 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. That's when caramelization occurs. But we've already discovered that water boils at 212 degrees, which is why if you boil and steam all your vegetables, your temperatures won't get hot enough to bring out the secret. What's the secret? They're sweet. What temperature does it take? 330. So I add my oil to my pan and I add whatever vegetable I happen to have. And I want it to be in a flat layer. I want the vegetable to not be a pile up on top of each other. Why? Because the place where the secret comes out is the place where the vegetable touches the pan, which means that instead of having everything piled on top, or maybe so many vegetables that I have a few layers, the vegetables that are on the pan will caramelize. The vegetables that are on top of the vegetables, they'll steam. And steaming won't get us those secrets. That wonderful alchemic, I don't even know the word, food filled with mystery and magic, right? Caramelization is an amazing chemical reaction that happens that we definitely want to use more of in the kitchen. So a flat layer. And then what's really important is to, and I'll take the stove shot, please, Ray, is to mix your vegetable up with your pan and then flatten it back out again. Right? Don't do what the average sauteer does, which is sit here and stir. People just stand by their pan and stir. They stand by their pan and they stir. And what's the problem if you just keep stirring? The vegetable doesn't touch the pan, right? What's the problem if when I stir, I kind of leave it like this? Well, these are steaming and I've got all that extra heat that's escaping right there. So give the vegetable a chance to connect and caramelize and give it the time. Often, we burn the hell out of our meats, right? But with vegetables, we're so careful. Like we don't want to put too much heat on them. And that's actually, there are times when you may not want to cook your vegetables too much, but when it comes to heightening their flavor, give them a little bit more time. Seasoning lesson number 1, caramelize your vegetable. Seasoning lesson number 2. As the vegetable cooks, it loses a layer of fond, that brown stuff, to the pan. Now I'm going to turn this up a little bit because I don't see too much fond happening quite yet, but we saw it in the last dish, that brown stuff that comes to the bottom of the pan. And we want to pick that stuff up, as we talked about, that fond, because it is the culinary gold. And the way we do that is with a liquid, most commonly a stock or a wine. But did you know you can deglaze with anything? I'm going to deglaze today with the leftover juice from the caper jar. I can never figure out where the camera is. I just got some caper juice. You can deglaze with apple juice. If you're cooking for kids, deglaze with apple juice. Are you drinking a beer? Deglaze with beer. You can deglaze with any liquid. Acid will give you a better effect because it picks up that fond better. But you don't want to add too much, as we said, because you don't want the temperature to drop down to the boiling point of water, which is 212 Fahrenheit, 100 C. Right? So just enough to pick it up. Now I'm starting to see a little bit of fond. I got some right here. I'll take the stove shot, Ray. I got to do this off the heat so I don't lose my camera. I'm going to take my caper juice. Let that spigot over there. And oops, don't want to put it too close to the camera. I can lose the camera. But you'll notice it picks it perfectly up. So when you start getting that caramelization, that means we're on our way. And what I want to do is sprinkle in a little bit of mustard seed, a little bit of cumin seed, and let those, this is my easy seasoning. This is my salt and pepper with a college education. Let those guys toast. And then I'm going to take some lime, which is an acid, which will give me a better chance at deglazing the pan because the acid breaks things down. And I'm going to add some lime now to this, which also deglazes the pan. And so now I can add salt or not, right? If I want to add salt, I can add salt. If I don't want to add salt, I don't have to because you've already seasoned. And those are my cumin seed, mustard seed, lime, carrots. Now let's do that again, but let's do it with broccoli. All right. Again, it doesn't really matter the vegetable, a little bit of oil. Here are my cumin seed, mustard, lime, carrots. We're going to add in our broccoli and do the same exact thing. Let that oil go around the pan. The reason why we heat the pan before we add the vegetables is because there's something in the metal that seals off the pan and makes it more non-stick, even though we're not looking for non-stick. We don't want non-stick because we want things to stick in this pan, but we don't want them to just stick and not be able to get it off, right? So, oh my gosh, I wish I could give you the smell. I wish these cameras would have the smell. It smells so good in this kitchen right now. I'm going to check to make sure that my heat is very low on my salmon. I've got how many minutes left? About 2 minutes left. Here I'm mixing up my broccoli just like we did the carrots. I'm spreading it out to give it the opportunity to caramelize. I'm noticing a very good combination of fond over here on the side, so we'll just let that go a little bit longer. And then we're going to deglaze it with whatever we have, right? I've got some stock. I've got some caper juice, right? If I was drinking a beer, and I'm going to do this off the heat. I don't want to add a lot. So here you see a lot of fond there. Let's do it off to the side of the camera. And the thing that you really want is a flat wooden spoon. Oops. A flat wooden spoon, because the flat wooden spoon will pick up that fond. So I've got some good fond here. And let's pick it up and release. Actually, I think I'm going to add a little bit of the caper juice because that's got an acid and that'll pick it up better. All right, see how it's coming up better than the now, and maybe even a little bit more. And then to this guy, I'm just going to add some quick Parmesan cheese, and I'll just add it into the pan to let it melt a little bit, and some pine nut, and let that sit for a second. And of course, salt if you choose, right? Maybe I'll add a little pink salt now. Pink salt has less sodium than other salt. And we'll kind of put those guys off to the side. All right, so our salmon's going to be dinging at any moment. There we go. Let's give a check on it, see how it's doing. All right, kind of perfect. It's like a poached salmon. We've got our tempeh in there too. We want to make sure that our grains are done. So take on and give it a little taste. The grains are done. I'm tasting that I need a little more salt. Did I add salt? I don't remember if I added salt. I hope I did. I'm just going to put that off to the side. And now we're just going to finish up with a quick dessert recipe, and then we'll plate up our meal because that is ready to go. Yum. Very nice taste. All right. Quick recipe for people who are looking for what's our time? Oh, we got 15 minutes. We got plenty of time. This is a quick recipe for people who are looking, one, for either a yogurt substitute, because you can make it with any kind of milk. So if you're looking for a non-dairy, say yogurt that you don't quite like the ones that are out there, or you want to save some money. For me, I look at this as a pudding, and I've been wanting to get, I'm a sugar addict. I think if you've just come in late, maybe you didn't hear that. I've been looking at sugar issues for a long time, trying to, I as a younger person, I had an eating disorder, and I have cured myself from all of those things that get in our way when it comes to being an eater. But I still want a sweet at the end of dinner. And so this is my new thing. And it's just a quick and fast opportunity for us to get a new recipe. If you haven't been using chia seeds, which are high in protein and really help us, I hate to say it, poop, chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, these superfoods that often we don't incorporate enough into our diet. This is a great way to do it. Plus, getting a pudding kick and just adding a little sweet to your life. So you can use any kind of milk that you want. You could use regular milk. You can use oat milk. They have oat milks now that are called the barista version, which are extra creamy, fatty, more fat. If you're looking to reduce the amount of animal products and kind of become more plant forward and join the trend, which everyone is doing, you can get a little bit more fat in your diet. You don't have to be so skimpy with fat. In fact, back in the 80s, we got the whole low fat thing all wrong. We know that fat is very important, both to nutritionally, for us nutritionally, and also culinarily. Fat is considered to be the school bus of flavor. So fat brings flavor around to the dish. So if you are not, eating a lot of fried food and animal products, having a higher fat anything, dessert, is actually something that, is a good thing. You probably could use a little bit more better fat. It's the quality of fat, not necessarily, we don't want to overdo it, but really we're looking for better quality. And so a high fat oat milk, I'm actually using a soy milk because I'm trying to get more protein in my diet. The average American eats double the amount of protein. I think, it's like 40 to 50 grams for women and men. And the average American eats like 90 grams of protein a day. I do not. So I'm choosing soy milk to get myself a little bit more because I am basically a vegetarian. But I have no judgment on what anybody eats. And certainly with Earth Day coming up now, one of the best things you can do for the environment is look at what's on your dinner plate. And there are many ways to be able to participate in environmental sustainability through food. I write a column for Embarcadero Media, which is our local newspapers, the Palo Alto Weekly, the Mountain View Voice, and the Menlo Park Almanac, so down on the peninsula. It's called The Food Party, the name of my column. And this coming week, we're going to be doing what kind of food resolutions you can choose to fit yourself into environmental sustainability through food for Earth Day. And, you don't have to be perfect. Don't let perfect be the enemy of the good, right? We're all looking to improve. We don't have to be saints in the process. And there's many options. So tune into The Food Party, Menlo Park Almanac, Mountain View Voice, Palo Alto Weekly. All right, I've just got a cup of whatever milk you choose. Again, I'm choosing soy milk because I want the extra protein. And then I'm going to add in chia seeds. Well, first, let me add in the other ingredients. So I'm going to add in some vanilla extract. Maybe, I don't know, you can give me the overhead shot, Ray. And vanilla extract, besides just smelling really good, oh my God. And get good quality. Vanilla extract is one of these things you don't want to buy in Costco in the huge thing, or you don't, you want to spend 12, 13, 14 bucks, for a bottle because you're going to get the quality that you want. You don't, definitely it's worth the investment. But what's interesting about adding vanilla to any kind of dish that you may be adding it to, specifically dessert, is that vanilla tricks the brain into thinking that something is sweeter than it is. So, it's a way, it's kind of a way to sweeten something without sweetening something at all. So good quality, about a teaspoon into our mix. I'm going to add some more protein because why not get a dessert with a little bit more protein again? Laura doesn't eat as much meat as Laura doesn't eat meat. So we're trying to get protein in different ways, and certainly a plant-forward diet allows you to get all the protein you need as long as you're eating the foods. Peanut butter is a good one. I like to add peanut butter powder to this for about a tablespoon. I get 6 grams of protein, and it is a powder, which is just an interesting way. So it removes the fat and just gives you the protein and the peanut experience. It is absolutely optional for anybody who has allergies. But for me, it gives me something else to more protein in my diet. I'm going to mix that up well. If I wanted to add now any kind of sweet, I could do that. For me, what I do at the end is I add a little stevia on top, or the leaf that is naturally sweet that comes in powder form. But I actually add no sweet, but adding a little bit of honey right now, a little bit of maple syrup, even a sprinkle of brown sugar or sugar is fine if you want to go in that direction. And now I'm going to add some chia seeds. Now, chia seeds, again, one of the superfoods, high in protein, definitely helps us be regular. And I want to show you two. I've got two colors here. I've got the black seeds and the white seeds because I came to the end of my white seeds, so I just put them on top. And they basically do the same thing. And I'm going to take a quarter cup and put them in. But the white seeds, which are rarer to find, you can buy them online though. The nice addition, a quarter cup of chia seed into the 1 cup of milk. The nice thing about the white seeds is you don't see them in the mix. And for me, I don't care. But if you're cooking for kids, as I have have done for many years, kids often they don't want to see the black seeds. So if you're trying to thicken something up, and your children are like, oh, what are those black dots? Look for the white chia seeds, and they will not see them. All right, and that's the dish. And then I'm just going to pour that into any kind of a, any kind of a container that will allow me. And what I like to do, which is not part of the recipe too, is I'm going to sprinkle in some bee pollen. I had some bee pollen over Christmas time. I was doing some events, and we did bee pollen rimmed drinks. And so I've got this extra bee pollen, and I've been using it. Of course, bee pollen is, is a less fattening version of honey, right? Good for the immune system. Interesting flavor, kind of a light, almost a citrusy flavor. And so then that guy just sets up in the refrigerator overnight, and I have some done. I'll bring him out and show you. Okay, let's plate up. Let's see what time we got. Well, yeah, it's time to plate. All right. So I'm happy to take any questions now, if there are any, as we get our quick and easy meal together. So Joseph, I wonder how he's doing back there. If for any reason you wanted to take this dish in stages, like do some early, it's a fast dish, but you could always saute the onions and the garlic in, and have that ready, and toast up your couscous. And then when like in the morning or in the afternoon or whatever, and then when it comes time to dinner, then you would just add the stock and finish up the process. So. All right, so what do I have here? What I'd like to do with this dish is put a bed of spinach underneath it. Again, I'm trying to get more greens in my diet, right? And so then I can transfer the salmon and the hot couscous, which should not have any liquid in the bottom of the pan. And if Ray gives us a shot of the stove, you can see that it does not. But when you put it right over, it can kind of steam itself with the spinach. So certainly you can cook the spinach if you choose, and you'll notice there's no grain there. Or you can, there's no water there, or you can just do this process, which is basically you're steaming it yourself. And here I've got my tempeh, so probably we'll take the overhead shot, Ray. So the tempeh, again, is a soy product. You get 18 grams of protein in a serving. You can buy tempeh at Trader Joe's, believe it or not. Here I'm going to show you tempeh. This is the stuff that comes from Trader Joe's. It is gluten-free. It doesn't necessarily always gluten-free, but this stuff, which I think I got at Trader Joe's, it comes in this kind of package. This is what it looks like before I marinated it. And it is a very good protein substitute. And then to this, I'll just add a little bit of ground pistachios. And I might take a good quality olive oil. Let's see, where do I have a good, a good quality olive oil now as a finisher, both on my salmon. So a good quality, would be something that I do not saute with. So an unfiltered olive oil that has more flavor. And you can always just drill that on. And then a nice addition is some flake salt. Flake salt is a perfect thing. If you didn't add any salt at all, which of course is kind of a trend now, don't add salt and just add a little flake salt at the end of the dish. And you end up with like the perfect amount. And what flake salt, being flaky, it not only does it give you sodium, it gives you texture. And texture variation causes us to eat more. And that includes not only with flavor, it includes texture, which is why crunchy things are so important to, crunchy things are so important to a dish. And I'm looking for a white plate so that I can move my vegetable. Actually, I'm going to probably do it in this white bowl. So here is my salmon and tempeh with on a bed of spinach with a cilantro pesto. We're going to move that guy there. And then we're going to serve up our easy seasoned cumin seed, mustard seed, and lime carrots filled with flavor. And we'll just put those on the side here so we get more of a white. And then for our broccoli, we've got Parmesan pine nut broccoli, right? Easy seasoned. That we'll just put right next to our carrots. Because I should have chose a larger dish, right? And look at all this fond that's left in the pan. So basically, if you've got fond left in the pan, just give it a one last glaze before you get rid of that dish, or pour it onto your leftovers, or pour it onto your salmon. That's an opportunity too. Don't let that flavor go down the drain. And then lastly, let me get out the pudding. Oh gosh, strawberries. We'll do the strawberries quick. I didn't do the strawberries. So here's the pudding that's here from last night. And what I wanted to top that with is just some balsamic strawberries. And it's a fun way to look at. So I've got a bowl of strawberries here. If you want to heighten the flavor, get a little good quality balsamic vinegar and sprinkle it onto your strawberries. Maybe or maybe not, you will use a sweetener. And then what I like to do to this is add a little bit of, give me the overhead shot, Ray, if you would. Add a little bit of chili smoke. So I'm doing a lot of stuff with bitters these days. I have a class on drinks, happy hour and mocktail cocktail. And so to my marinated strawberries, I just add a little bit of a hot chili tincture. Bitter, a chili and then of course the best thing to do is let this macerate, or to let the vegetable, the fruit kind of macerate into the strawberries, and then we can top these guys onto our pudding. Balsamic, what is it? Chili, balsamic, strawberries. And of course, if you add a little bit of a sweetener to the maceration of the balsamic vinegar, which is sweet, and the spike of bitter, chili bitter, then you can have a little bit of sweet added to your pudding if you didn't add any sweet in it, obviously. So again, we have our beautiful salmon, one-pot salmon, and our tempeh over a bed of spinach, some pistachio garnish. And then we have our easy seasoned vegetables. We have cumin seed, mustard seed, lime on carrot. We have Parmesan pine nut on broccoli, but any of those work fine. And then for your dessert today, and that smells delicious, for your dessert, we will add a little bit of chia pudding with a spiked balsamic strawberry for your enjoyment. Infinera, that is dinner tonight. How's Joseph doing? How are you guys doing back there? Are there any questions? Can we, what's our time? We got 1 minute. 1 minute. Any questions in the chat? Anybody cooking? All right, Infinera. Well, yeah, I hope that you take advantage of some of the Earth Day activities that are happening. Earth Day is April 22nd. One of the best effects you can have on the environment begins on your dinner plate. I happen to be the author of a book called Cool Cuisine, Taking the Bite Out of Global Warming. We propose that global warming could be the best thing to happen to the culinary world in a long time because the problems associated with our food system, and how they contribute to global warming are vast. And not only is our food system contributing to global warming, it's contributing, if you haven't noticed, to, unfortunately, the broadening of the American waistline, as well as the lack of flavor we get from the foods that are part of the machine cuisine or the global warming diet. So by reducing our amount of animal products, by eating in season, less foods that are grown with pesticides and herbicides, but organically, doing some things with our food waste, which we have a class on, food waste reduction, and transportation, and whether or not your food is flown in. So strawberries in the middle of around Christmas are another example of how our food system contributes to global warming. There are many ways for you to participate in the solution, and guess what? It's going to be tastier and healthier for you, and for the animals, and for the planet. So let's change the world with great tasting food, shall we? Together we can make a great meal and a great difference. Thanks so much, Infinera. I'll stick around if there are any questions, but if not, I see people leaving. You've got the recipe packet. Again, Abby's got it. You've got pictures of it in the chat. And fast recipes. If I can do 3 dishes in an hour, you can certainly do 1. Joseph, good job for you, man. If you've got it, take a picture, put it up on social media, let us know. #PlanForward. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it.